Hello and welcome to the Leadership Overview for Ergonomics program. We're going to start with information. It's going to be about the ergonomics, how really to, from the business perspective as well as from the employee perspective, how to make this attractive and effective. So we're going to start with the leadership overview, and then we'll get into the what we present to the employees. So this block, the set of blocks here, is to help us think about the difference between an immovable object versus an awesome foundation. So when we think of our employees, do we think of them as immovable blocks? Immovable, easy for me to say. Or do we think of them as solid foundations? Maybe a little bit of both, but our leadership and management can make the difference. So let's think about ergonomics in this line of thinking. So what if we could say, I can save work comp insurance costs down by 50 to 70% per year for office workers. That would be pretty huge, right? Lost work days improved by 50% or more, plus improved workplace productivity while they're at work. The disengaged worker costs, at least this is what Kaiser found in their research, 18% is what a disengaged worker will cost. And for a $50,000 per year employee, that would be $9,000 per year per employee. So disengagement costs a lot of money. And that can be absenteeism, where they're not at work, or it can be presenteeism. They're at work, they're just not engaged. So if we can re-engage them, we can recapture the productivity and the revenue and restore satisfaction. So how positive change occurs. So employees can be strong foundations or immovable blocks. Key psychological concepts. This is what the employees are thinking, and we all think this, right? This is my body. I know my body best. No one knows that more than me. And when they're ideas, it's true also. So I have an idea. I think this would be awesome. I'm going to share it with somebody, or maybe they don't want to share it. They do want to, but they don't feel comfortable sharing it. But they know their idea is worth implementing and defending. If they come up with something, it's worth defending. Leadership supporting and implementing my suggestions makes me feel valued and valuable. All right, that's true of all of us. And our goal is to empower our employees to work with knowledge and training. So we call that guided practice. So they make decisions that are at least 80% as good as what we would make. Sure, it'd be great if everybody made the same decisions we made, but then of course we wouldn't have much diversity there, or free thought. So we want to free them to do it, and no one's going to get everything right all the time, but if they can get 80% as well as us, then we want to free them to do that and feel good about it. Also, we only want to learn or do things if they help us get what we want more of, more quickly, completely, and more easily. So we'll teach you how this approach to ergonomics will help them get more productivity, more comfortable, and more healthy. And they want that as well as you. So it's important and helpful to understand that our productivity, comfort, and health can be influenced by our work, of course, or ergonomics, but our lifestyle outside of work duties is usually the biggest contributor. So knowing this helps not put the blame on the work, but it also, for the employer perspective, it motivates us to support healthy lifestyle of employees. So let's talk about a case study. This was Erie Life Insurance. So they had 4,106 employees, and their ergonomics program, included education and supervisor ergonomic analysis training. So supervisors were taught how to evaluate the workstation, so they knew what they were looking for. Early reporting, so the employees were encouraged to discuss and bring up if they had some discomfort that they wanted help with. And early treatment, they actually had on-site therapy. They had some therapy on-site to help them out immediately. So what were the results? After establishing an ergonomics program, their lost work days decreased dramatically, so that was great. Work claims decreased by 50%. So for work-related musculoskeletal disorders. This was even though they had early reporting. So there's a little nuance here. So it was early reporting of a problem, but not yet a claim. So you address it early enough, then we don't get into that claim process. So initially, the rate of work comp-related musculoskeletal disorders increased. Well, we don't want that. Who wants increased complaints and increased problems? Well, they were already there. They just weren't being shared, right? And then they would be shared as a claim or a lost workday or a presenteeism. So they increased, but then they decreased. The drop in injury severity, lost days, and compensation claims was immediate. So less work days lost, less severity of injuries, and less work comp claims. So it's clear at the very beginning there was increased reporting, but there was decreased problems. All right, another case study. This is Colby College. So they only had 650 employees, which is still quite a lot, right? But a good case study. The employee involvement and education was a big part of their program. They had job redesigns, which included processes as well as responsibilities, and of course, equipment changes as needed. And they had warm-up exercises, something they would do each day, a warm-up exercise program to get them moving. So they had a dramatic bottom line improvement that was measured in years, not months. Okay, so keep that in mind. The results after 3 years of starting the program, their lost work days were improved by 95%. Well, that's worth waiting for, right? And you know, if you've got that and you're paying attention to the employees, then you also have a lot more satisfaction, a lot more happy people. And the work comp insurance costs were down by $100,000 per year. Let that sink in. And their work comp mod factor went down to 0.52, and so they had lower premiums. So they were just saving money on all fronts, more satisfaction and lower costs. All right, one more big case study. This is Blue Cross of Rhode Island. So in this one, I'll let you see me. There we go. I'm on the screen now too. So in this one, they had 1,600 employees. Their program was employee education at orientation. So when they get a new person on the job, they would teach them about ergonomics and how to prevent these problems. They had a warm-up exercise program. They had good tracking of concerns and interventions. So much like the early one, they had good tracking, early reporting, and they had some ergonomic equipment that they started using. The company had addressed ergonomics before, but it didn't work, right? Have we heard that before? Yeah, I tried that before, it didn't work. So, but before, when they did it, it wasn't really a formal program. It was just like, okay, here's some ergonomics education, or here's a couple pieces of equipment. I hope you like it. I hope it makes you happy, and stop complaining, right? So, but it wasn't really an organized program and system. So the results, only 1 year after starting their ergonomics program, lost work days improved by 70%, and that number was from 345 to 104 lost work days. That was a huge improvement. Work comp costs were down by 89%, which for them was $201,000 per year. Pretty massive. All right, there was a research study on office workers with neck pain. So this wasn't specifically workers, this wasn't an office, one office. This was multiple offices, and they brought people together who had one condition, their neck pain. So in this case, their program included, I'll let you see the program, physical exercise and ergonomics modifications. So two different groups, one received both, one received just the ergonomics. So ergonomics modifications, much exercise personalization and empowerment. For them, this was a really intensive intervention and a lot of training. So a lot of work here, but you can see when you put a lot of work what the results can be. And the ergonomics wasn't really a great system. So they did a decent ergonomics job, and then they did a decent ergonomics and awesome exercise and training and personalization in these two separate groups. So they had 60 people, office workers. They all had chronic neck pain. 30 of them were in the exercise and ergonomics group, and 30 of them were in the ergonomics alone group. For 8 weeks, they saw them 2 times per week and gave them exercises to do. They were personalized. They gave neck-specific exercises, endurance exercises, stretching exercises. In the ergonomics group, they helped them modify their chair, desk, monitor, and posture. Right? Results after 8 weeks of starting the program, the neck pain for the ergonomics and exercise group, 75% less. And the ergonomics alone group was 43% less neck pain. So pretty significant for both. Another questionnaire they gave them calls it SF36, which is an overall health and life quality questionnaire. This one, ergonomics and exercise group, it improved by 71%, and the ergonomics alone group improved by 21%. It's not to say that ergonomics was a bad approach, right? It just wasn't the whole lifestyle approach that the other group had as well. And then the work-related stress, ergonomics and exercise group, 84% better, and the ergonomics alone group, 21% better. So work-related stress, just with a simple basic ergonomics program, improved by 21%. So that was pretty significant. So what are the key elements of this program? So we've got motivation, which is understanding why and creating a want to. So that's the really gifted part, is being able to create a want within the employees. And not just going, here, this is something you need, and I know it's good for you, because go back to those principles. They think they know best. They want it to be their idea, right? So if we include them, that's the buy-in, right? Understanding how. So we want to give them just the information, right? And implementation involves the empowerment as well as ease. So we want it to be simple and easy for them to do, both for the employer and the employee. And consistency and durability. So this is the difference between just giving some information and going, okay, I hope that helps, versus a system where it's continued to be reinforced and supported. So consistency and durability through messaging processes and perhaps even rewards and recognition. And then finally, tracking loss, change, and gain. So we want to know what we started with, what we changed, and then the results. So what's the ROI? So we came up with an estimate of ROI based on these other studies, as well as case studies and research studies. So let's say you have an investment of $6,700. What is that? This is for 25 employees over 1 year. Initial leadership training and planning, say that's $250 an hour. It may just take an hour. Initial employee training may only take an hour. Initial workstation assessments and guidance, this is going around to each person for the 25 employees, $50 per station, that's $1,200. Workstation accommodations, this can vary, but let's say you've got, some people may not need any new equipment, they just need to use it well. Other people may need new equipment. So if you figure an average of $100 per workstation, then for 25 employees, you're looking at $2,500. And then admin, if you incur some extra expenses for tracking statistics, for messaging, your processes, perhaps rewards, recognition, $2,500. So what's your return on this investment? Well, you can expect work comp costs to go down 50 to 70% per year. If that's $150 an employee, which is about what we're looking at in those other studies, that's $3,700 a year. All right, that doesn't quite make up for our 67, but that's not $6,700 every year. That would just be the first year. And lost work days improved by 50%. And we talked about that disengaged worker before versus the engaged worker. So if you have a $50,000 employee and they become re-engaged, then that's $9,000 per year for that employee. So if you just had one employee who was disengaged because of these problems and you get them re-engaged, that's really valuable. And then you get improved workday productivity. That's the re-engagement, or just actually being at work instead of lost work days, right? So a lot can be gained. And all of this at the top, give you a different view here. So all of this at the top is just the first year. All these accommodations and assessments, employee training. Now you may have, as you onboard somebody, you may give them some more of this training, but that you can just set up as a video, or one of the supervisors can be trained to give them basic overview of that. This might be an ongoing expense. You want to have some ongoing processes for sure, and you might have an expense with that. So well worth the return for sure going forward. And we didn't even get into, oh yeah, we do work comp costs. So there's and then worker satisfaction, we didn't get into that. Right, so a lot can be gained. That's what we go through for the employees. Now this is our employers. This is more the employer, employee. This is what we go through. We want to emphasize improved productivity, comfort, and health. We're not going to emphasize a robotic approach to ergonomics, right? What's the perfect posture for sitting all day long? There is no perfect posture for sitting all day long, right? You should not be sitting all day long. So I want to tell you how this works. We're going to make it simple and we're going to make it effective. They're just two symptom sources. And the symptoms in your body, they're like a fire, your house on fire. And so we want to put out that fire. We don't want to put fuel on the fire. And so the sources will either, your modifiable causes will either put fuel on that fire or they'll extinguish the fire. So we want to know what those causes are. This is a medical secret, but we're going to unveil the secrets so you know exactly what to do. You don't have to go to the doctor, have him figure out, what you need to do, what the problem is. You can figure this out on your own and start to resolve it. And so solutions are going to be simple and they'll be effective. So when we talk about ergonomics, that's the big word right here, but ergonomics is about positioning. And that doesn't really matter unless we have a purpose. So purpose is to be productive, comfortable, and healthy. And so research has shown that for somebody who actually already has a problem, like neck pain, you can have 43% more comfort and 21% more healthy feeling. So that's what we're going to help you achieve today and through this process. So there's two vulnerable targets. We can think of them as, are their symptoms. We can think of them as targets because this is where we're going to apply our when we apply the changes, this is where they're going to make the change in our body. Nerve irritation and brain disturbances. That's what causes symptoms and productivity problems. So if we can get to the heart of this, to the root of it, then we can get those problems fixed. The cause of nerve and brain irritation. So what are they? There's chemical, there's joints, there's posture, and there's mental or emotional. Right? So these are the hoses that they put fuel or extinguish the fire. These are modifiable causes. You have control. So that's the secret. You have control of what goes on here. So chemical, what is that? So this is a neuron, and it is having fuel. It's putting fuel on the fire of this nerve irritation and brain disturbances. So chemical, it can be negative or positive. Negative would be these toxins. And they cause pain, what we call nociception, pain on the nerve endings. They also cause toxicity locally. Tension in the muscles creates a toxicity on the nerve endings, and that then generates pain and irritation. Irritates the nerves, disturbs brain function. Tingling. So if you get tingling in your hands or your feet or tingling in the back of your head, this is often that referred nerve irritation causing that referred tingling from the site of toxicity. And it also can refer up into your brain, causing brain fog. You get this static feedback of these irritated nerves feeding up into your brain, and that can cause headaches or it can cause brain fog, other head issues. And injury susceptibility. So if your brain is not getting the right information, then it can't properly control your body, and you're more likely to hurt yourself doing something really simple. All right, first medical mystery, toxins. They're more than a pain in the butt, right? So toxin inflammation buildup is caused by food or air or drink, right? Things that we eat, drink, and breathe. But also from joint malfunction, we call that a subluxation, problem in the spine, or lack of motion or postural strain. If you sit in one place long enough, toxins build up. And then they start causing those nerve irritations we're talking about. The glute muscle toxicity. So right in here, if you sit on your butt for a long time, waste products build up in your gluteal muscles. And then they cause referred irritation down your leg, pain or achiness, maybe a numbness or tingling feeling. And it really, actuality, it refers up to your brain, and then your brain perceives it out here. It's a little more complex, but that's the reality of it. But you can just think of it as from here going down here. All right, so that's toxins causing your symptoms. All right, so what about toxins causing symptoms in the shoulder, arm, hand, neck, and head. Same sort of things, right? So now you've got what you eat, drink, and breathe. So that creates a, what you're feeding your body with. Are you feeding it with toxins? Are you feeding it with good, healthy things that help you detoxify naturally? Joint malfunction. So if there's subluxation in the upper back or in the neck, that's a joint malfunction. We'll talk about that. Then that creates muscle tension, and then that creates toxicity, and that causes this referred irritation down your arms. You may have pain in your elbow, you may have tingling in your hands, you think you have carpal tunnel syndrome. In reality, it may be these referred sensations coming from your shoulder, upper back, or neck. So also we have lack of motion and postural strain. If you don't move enough, then that creates problems because the toxins build up. And even though, so people often think, oh, I'm moving my fingers all day long so fast. It's like, it's not a finger issue. It's a shoulder, back, neck issue. All right, keep that in mind. Is this part of your body moving or just your fingers? So it's not an overuse syndrome. It's usually an underuse syndrome. So, and if the more you are out of balance here with poor ergonomics, the more likely that, the more it multiplies that strain and that toxicity built up even faster. And then you get nerve irritation, symptoms up to your head, causing headache or causing arm pain or shoulder or neck pain. And the last one we have is mental stress. Mental stress contributes this as well because we emote or have emotions, a lot of it with our jaw, with our shoulders. And so we get that tension in our jaw or shoulders. Tension, as we learned, creates that toxicity buildup, and then it irritates those nerves, or refers sensations up into a headache, eye pain, shoulder, arm, hand irritation. All right, so you're starting to get this picture. So if we can go back to the root of it, right, addressing these things, well, we eat, drink, breathe, joint malfunction, lack of motion, postural strain, and mental stress. If we can address those, then we start to find solutions, and the symptoms go away on their own. That's the secret. There's the headache. Okay, so joint subluxations, what are these? So they cause your symptoms. Joint subluxation really is joint malfunction, moving poorly or not moving at all. And this affects clarity, energy, head, arm, low back, and legs. It can really be almost everything, right? This contributes to nerve irritation and brain disturbance. Joints are critical. They can cause pain, which is at nociceptors. They can cause toxicity because a joint that's not working right will create an area of strain around it. Muscles are all around it. So those muscles will be strained tight and then building up with toxicity, nerve irritation, and then tingling because of the referred sensations. Brain fog as it refers up that static information into the brain. Injury susceptibility because now the brain is not sure as well what's going on. You're more likely to injure yourself. So stress causes subluxations and health problems by causing nerve interference. What are the types of stress? We have trauma, toxicity, and thought. Another way to think of those is mental, chemical, and physical. I like thinking of them that way because mental, physical, and chemical, those can be positive. And I want you to switch negative things for positive things so you can start taking control of your health, reducing stress, and then preventing subluxations. And these all feed one into another. We have macro and micro, big ones and little stresses. We can affect the little ones a lot more than we can the big ones. Big ones are like car accidents or my pet died or whatever, right? So the little ones we can affect, how I respond to a situation, how I'm moving or not moving my body, what I eat, drink, and breathe. So these stresses cause subluxations, spinal subluxations, nerve interference, poor adaptation to stress. All right, we lost you for just a minute there. So spinal subluxations, stress causes this, and then your body can't adapt to stress appropriately. And if your body can't adapt to stress, then you're more likely to have subluxation symptoms. So they can be prevented by removing or reducing stress. All three stresses, mental, physical, and chemical. So postural strain causes your symptoms. Posture. Any prolonged posture leads to toxicity. So we want to avoid any prolonged posture. It's as simple as that. You need to move your body, right? Take breaks. And they can be super brief. 30 seconds is enough to get up, move your body, get blood flow back in those muscles. So postural strain increases the probability of toxicity, joint subluxations, which then causes pain, tingling, brain fog, injury, susceptibility, all those things. So what's the consequence of immobility? So let's double click on this, which is too little movement, right? There's two doctors, Dr. Zhu and Dr. Vitamin. They did a study and different times, different years, and they found that just 2 weeks of immobility of a joint starts to cause joint arthritis breakdown and adhesions. Now, none of us are sitting in one place for 2 weeks, right? But this is arthritis breakdown and adhesions. That's progressing significant. Now, this was microscopic, but nevertheless, they could see it in just 2 weeks. So we want to move our body because we know when we're not, it's starting to break down. Immobility also causes other health problems, not just in your joints. So this doctor who worked at NASA, Dr. Joan Vernikos, she was the former director of NASA Health Sciences. She found that people who went up to space, they came back with these disorders. And now you know, we get enough people coming back, you see them coming out of the space capsule on a stretcher, right? These people are messed up, right? It's just because they've been in zero gravity. Even though they're exercising hard, they get osteoporosis, they have blood sugar problems, they have blood pressure problems. They have to readapt to Earth. So she needed to study, and she found that if she would have them lay in bed, she could reproduce almost all these symptoms of people who were in space. She had to have them lay in bed for a while, but after they laid in bed for a while, she reproduced all these symptoms. So she wrote this book, Sitting Kills, Moving Heals. If you smoke like a chimney or a heavy drinker or both, it's actually the constant sitting that will do the most damage. Ouch. Also, mental strain is our last of the 4 causes that causes symptoms of clarity, energy, head, arm, low back, legs. It can do it all, but especially our shoulder, our head, our arms. It does that the most because these are the areas that we emote with. Causes sensitized nerve endings. It does that directly from within the nervous system. That's a little more complicated, but it also creates muscle tension, which creates toxicity, which then eventually creates subluxations, which creates more muscle tension, and that causes pain and toxicity and brain fog and injury susceptibility, the whole ball of wax. So you can control your health, your comfort, and your productivity. This is what I want you to understand. You are designed to be healthy. Stress, physical, chemical, mental, causes symptoms, interferes with our health. And you can remove the interference. How can you do it? We just talked about those different ways of causes. So, and now you can have control over those to help your health, comfort, and productivity. So I want you to know that you have the power to do this. What you eat, drink, breathe, think, sleep, and move is a really important aspect of this. Yes, we're going to talk a lot about ergonomics and how that improves it, but we want to lay the foundation of having a body that responds well to all these ergonomic improvements. So what you eat, drink, breathe, and how you think, sleep, and move is critical. So you are in control of your symptoms. We want health, comfort, and productivity. We want to put out the fire, decrease our symptoms from the foundation, from the root, by addressing chemical, joints, posture, and mental, starting with a healthy lifestyle where we eat, drink, breathe, think, move, and sleep, and then moving on to chemical, joints, posture, and mental. So use lifestyle and ergonomics to improve your health, create and support health and comfort. So we start thinking specifically now. In this case, we've got your desk has a big effect on your lower back and your legs. So you can start thinking, if you have symptoms, which is most likely the culprit? Now, of course, we want to begin with this, right? Eustress and distress. What are those? Eustress is good stress, like moving, exercise. Distress would be not moving, or it would be an accident, auto accident, something like that. All right. Drinking water and plenty of it. Drinking energy drinks. Right. So there's different kinds of stress on our body. Moving is that eustress, and that's where we talk about the ergonomics. So low back and legs, the keyboard, your mouse, your phone, those affect head and arm primarily. Your monitor position generally affects your head mostly, your head and your eyes. Head and arm fatigue, that's from different jobs. We'll talk about that. And your head's affected by your environment, and everything is affected by whether you move your body or not. So poor ergonomics amplifies these symptoms, and good ergonomics supports health and comfort. So there's a priority system usually that we follow. First, think about your chair, then your keyboard, then your screen, then your job, your breaks, and your environment. All right, so what's the checklist? I want to make this real simple. So first, you're going to fit your workspace to your body or your job. Start with your chair, and we'll go through later we'll talk about exactly how you fit your chair to your body. But then your keyboard and mouse, then your screen, and then your job. What's your job? Do you get up and down a lot? Do you do 10 key a lot? Do you work with documents, paper documents a lot? Do you work on the phone? This is all for the office worker. Of course, something very different would be if your job involves not being at the desk a lot. Maybe it's lifting or moving stuff, right? That's a different thing. But for office workers, this is what we're looking at. And your environment, the sound, the sight, the temperature, the lighting, and your focus. So this is more and more an issue these days, right? So your phone, different apps on your computer, and other activities that maybe other people are doing in the office. And next, move your body. Schedule movement. So we can't just go, oh, I try to get up and move around every once in a while. That does work for some people. If you don't have a problem already, then for sure that may be good enough. But for most people, you need to schedule environment, and this needs to be done, a system that's implemented. What the workers, this to be your idea, but the office, the owners, the managers, they have to support it. And so the way you make that work well is you have a system that's encouraged by the management and then applied by the employees. This is called the ROSA checklist. It's a rapid office strain assessment. And so this is the checklist that I'll actually teach you how to work through when we do this at your office. It's super cool, super simple. And for example, if we were to fit the chair to your body, so we look, are your knees at 90 degrees? So this is about where we want them to be. Too low, if you've got a sharp angle here. Too high, if you have too big of an angle here, you want them to be about 90-degree angle. And no foot contact, whoops, that's bad. That gives you a big score, negative score. And if you can't cross your legs, not that you should be crossing your legs, but if you cannot cross your legs on your desk, then you may not have enough space. So we don't want a big cross leg. That can be too much space because your hands need to be pretty close to on top of your legs to be ergonomically correct. When we get into the workspace, we talk about that. All right, so that's how you'd use this. You'd put a mark there, your score, you come up with the total score. You don't have to do the score. That doesn't really matter so much. What matters is getting the desk, or the chair in this case, to fit your body, right? So if a supervisor wants to do a score, you want to do some research, you can do that. But the big key is learning what it needs to be like, and then applying those things you learned before. If it's a chair problem, it's likely causing low back or leg symptoms, or it will be eventually. So test your skills and get rid of Cassandra's daily headaches. Let's do something kind of fun. I'm going to pause just a moment as we go through this so you can figure out. This is a 32-year-old female sales rep working 45 hours. She's on the phone about 20 hours, computer about 25 hours, and both for about 15 hours. So let me make this bigger so you can see it. All right, phone 20 hours, computer 25 hours, and both about 15. All right, she's got daily headaches. What can we do to help Cassandra get rid of her daily headaches? Okay, well, think about this. First, headaches. So we want to start with, well, it could be the everything one, right? So the move, it could be the head, which is environment. It could be head arm fatigue, which is job. It could be screen. Gosh, it could be almost everything, right, with Cassandra. So we start with the first one, keyboard. It's probably not the chair, right? Of course, we want to make sure that's right, but if we're going to focus, we'd focus on the keyboard first, make sure that's set to her correctly, and then we look at screen, and then we look at job, environment, and moving. So there's a lot that could be going on with Cassandra. And of course, it could also be her stress, the stressful lifestyle, what she eats, drinks, breathe, think, sleep, and move. We got to keep that in mind, that this foundational level needs to be good as well. So we want to support her in those aspects as well. But ergonomically, we look at all these things could be contributing. So we teach her how to make those changes. All right, what about Julie has carpal tunnel syndrome, or at least she thinks she does. She's got symptoms like that. She's a 40-year-old female. She's 5'2". Maybe there's a hint because I told you her height. She's an admin assistant working 40 hours, same as the other person, on the phone about 20 hours, computer about 25 hours, both about 15 hours. So she's got symptoms in her hand and wrist. So what's going on here? Bring it back around. Okay, hand and wrist. So we think, all right, well, what she's doing for her job, is she using 10 key a lot? Is she really using paper documents a lot? That's where we're really focusing a lot, but also we have the arm over here, keyboard and mouse could be an issue. And then of course, taking breaks could be an issue. But we also want to remember her lifestyle, what she eats, drinks, and breathes. That's the source of most inflammation, that nerve irritation that creates inflammation, which then makes you more susceptible to all these things. So is she having an energy drink every day? Is she eating trashy food? Are you guys bringing donuts to the office all the time? And so allowing everybody to, it makes it really hard to turn stuff down when super good food is at work, right? But remember that you're contributing to problems in people's lives if you're not supporting them with healthy foods as coworkers as well as owners. So what could we do for her? Consider these things here, and then make sure her keyboard and mouse are good, and make sure her workstation really is set up for her job appropriately. All right, and then make sure she's taking plenty of moving in the morning, moving around, kind of warming up, but also warming up exercises throughout the day, even if just 15-30 seconds, right, for her wrist, but also her whole body, because the nerves from the neck, they go down to the arm. All right, this is our last slide. So how positive change occurs. Are you, as an employee, a strong foundation to your employer and your coworkers? Or are you that immovable block? That hard-headed one, right? So there's value in being a strong foundation, which can be the same person, the same characteristics, just applied differently. So now you know your body. You also know your lifestyle and your ergonomics, causes and solutions. And perhaps you know where you need assistance, whether that's training, whether that's support, whether that's equipment. So take action right now where you can. So even if no one takes action for you, take action where you can, and because your health is your choice. All right. Have a wonderful day, and may God bless you.